Hey everybody, part 2 to the video. Thanks so much for watching the first one. I really appreciate it. I never show my face on these things. I guess I probably should. The headless guitar video. I think it just seems to be cooler to see the fretboard. That's my thing. Some people tell me a different story. We're gonna cover, as you know, just more topics kind of in and around that. I feel like that video had a lot of cool stuff that we could get away with. And adopt into our own and try, just try to make it ours in any way possible. That's all, that's all we're trying to do. Just because it's so inspiring, that content. And you get it like really cool and up close in that video. Piano thing, whole nother deal. We are gonna talk about this thing though, probably. Not probably, but we are. And just kind of some of the licks here and then that he would do in and around that. Because, specific to that Spanish Fly thing, there's like more of an addressed kind of lick that he does where you're going 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 9 on those 3 strings, grabbing the bar and dipping there. And within that outline, you get this kind of where he's doing that a little bit, where you're doubling up between these 2 fingers. And you're getting a little bit of that sound in there. And as Paul Gilbert would call it, you have the snarl. And you're landing there. Getting some of those kind of sounds. This is going off that shorter clip. I think these things, like if you're playing an A, that's a cool thing that we could take away from other licks that we could play within that spot. And just kind of, I love that sound. I always was really a big fan of the 3-note per string kind of growly thing, just like everybody else. But it was always hard to adopt that and then put it into like kind of a pentatonic thing where I felt like I could use it in a band context. So as smoothly as others seem to do it. Now within that area, we have this initial lick where we talked about that. Right, he does that, he works his way back. In the shorter clip, we get into some of this stuff. And this is pentatonic tapping, you're barring. What's kind of neat about this, you see a little bit of this happen, which leads into that later solo thing. So that's 14, 12, and 10. If you're like moving the right hand over, right, that's 5, 7, 8, and 10 with the 4 kind of thing in there. And then when you do that, get kind of that like thing we're familiar with live without a net kind of deal. Man, that stuff is really, really cool. And I always thought that was, classic kind of licks that we could do. I think the other thing too, when we talk about anything that's stretched, his kind of Holdsworthy stuff. Best way to practice that, I feel like, is if you get used to stretching that pinky out there, you're gonna go to an E minor. So you wanna get that thumb used to, moving back over. You can almost, get in that way. You can come over this way. Right? All of that stuff is really, really cool. Other things to think of too, kind of in there where you're doing, if you ever tap in here, you want to go to A. Another little skeletal kind of outline, because you see some of the open string stuff. And that's going to kind of lead me into, because he does that. I'm sorry, what is it? It's but way cooler in the context that he does it in a video. So like if I did it in A on 12, you can almost practice that kind of stuff. mirrors some of the older things that you would see back in the day where he would go. You're just doing things in octaves kind of that way. You know, that's always really, really cool. The two-handed stuff. So let's talk about like, you know, like more of the piano stuff. So you hear this lick. That's one thing that's going to happen. So that's going opposite directions with your right hand. Right hand's going 14, 15, 16. Left hand's going 12 down to 9. And we're going to throw this in. Now, this is my spin on this, man. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but it just kind of feels like where I'm at with it at the moment. So, you know, you take the Mean Street thing. I'm going to assume there's a level of getting comfortable with that. So, third finger's going to hit 7. You're going to tap G and B strings, and you're going to go do the same thing, but that's G and D. So that's what I feel like that pattern is. Within that idea, you could throw in all the other things. So I'm going to cover that a little bit more in depth. Feel free to comment whether or not you think I am wrong and or right. More on those things, because you have the thing we're going to get into where you're really mute and super strong over here. That's B and D. That is G and A. But again, as far as that goes, more defined. We're going to get into it. I really appreciate your time, and thanks so much, guys.